There goes a fly ball towards left field. Going back fast is Kennedy. Kennedy gets there, and he takes it. And the Cleveland Indians are the world champions of 1948. And
this is Cleveland's Team, a baseball history podcast. A regular look back at professional baseball in Cleveland from 1901 and beyond. Now, here's your host, Guardians team historian, Jeremy Fedor.
Yeah, that was all good. But like Nate said, just going to kind of go over your career and kind of focus on the Cleveland part and just
all right, that's cool.
Get your story. So we're going to kind of start all the way at the back at the start of it. And for those that aren't familiar, now was on your baseball reference page in Sabre, reading your bio, the story of how you got into baseball as a kid. Throwing rocks and stuff. That's a true story? That's no embellishment there?
That is a true story.
Okay.
So in our neighborhood, we had one way in and one way out. So I lived on a dirt road. And the little part that was paved, that's where we used to play stickball in the street. So normally when a car comes through the neighborhood, if it takes its time because it's a dirt road, we got to go from one dirt road, a little paved road, to another dirt road, we would pile all our rocks up on the side and we would just rock the car. Because if we didn't know you, we would rock the car. And so for me, my idea was, since I knew I had the strongest arm, I waited till the car went down the street and up the dirt road, because there was a house in the fork of the road, corner of the road. I would throw the rock and try to time it to hit the car over the house. So that was my little gimmick, because I didn't want to get caught. I know I could pretty accurate with throwing rocks, because that's what we did. And lo and behold, the car came down the street, and we didn't like his actions, so we decided we were going to rock the car, and we did. Everybody threw the rocks at the car, and I waited to the last minute to try to time it, and next thing you know, boom, I hear it hit the car, and the car rolls back, pulls back in reverse and come down the hill. Of course, all of us scattered, and everybody ran in the house, but my house is sitting on the corner as well, so I could not run in the house because my mom was in the house and my dad was in the backyard. So I ran like around my neighbor's house, and all of a sudden the car pull up in front of my house. The other kids had told on me. So this guy gets out of the car, comes back, comes to my house, asks my mom and dad, where's Marquis? And they said, he's out there somewhere playing. And next thing you know, they called me and I came to the house, and the car that I hit, he came to my mom's house, opened the door, came in, and all of a sudden he goes, I'll make a deal with you. He said, if you play on my baseball team, I would not tell your mom you hit my car with a rock. So that's how the story started. That's how the story ended. So he came to pick me up. He paid for me to play baseball because I couldn't afford the $85 to play baseball. And he talked to my mom and made a deal with them that he would pick me up and bring me home every single day after practice. And that's how I started playing organized baseball.
Did you keep in touch with this gentleman throughout the years or after you were done with that season?
Of course. His name was T.J. Wilson, and he was a City of Atlanta cop. He actually was looking for a baseball field. So I played on his 9 and 10-year-old baseball team at the age of 7. And I also played with him 11, 12, and part of my 13-year-old age group too. And he ended up being a scout for the Atlanta Braves for about 7 years, Cincinnati Reds for about 2 years, and had given tons of kids opportunity to go to college. And so that's where I get most of my gift from, to give back in the community, because of that guy who did the same thing, giving the kid the opportunity to learn the game of baseball, play the game of baseball, and supported us as well.
And flash forward to high school, and you excelled at several sports in high school. What, in your heart was baseball what you wanted to go into, or was, I think it was football and track you were a part of too? Yeah. Your first love, which one was it?
My first love was football. It was all the way football. I played football starting at 9 years old, and it was something that I just enjoyed, the contact sport. And I also loved baseball too, but football was my dream, to play in the NFL. And all of a sudden, you go through your teenage years and you get to high school, and all of a sudden now I'm playing baseball at a high level too, and they offer me a contract and get drafted out of high school. So that kind of ring the bell for me, and what do I decide to do? Do I want to go to college and play football or baseball? And I tried to do both. So I got an offer a lot of schools for football, a lot of schools for baseball, But Florida A&M was the only school that was going to give me an opportunity to play both. And so I took the offer from Florida A&M, and Coach Robert Lucas allowed me to go out on the football field, which I didn't do at all. I just went straight to the baseball field and started working on my baseball craft because of the opportunity I had got out of high school to get drafted. And I thought that, listen to my dad, you're too small to play football. And, that kind of motivated me more to want to play football. But baseball was something that I just couldn't quite conquer. I thought I could, advance in football real quick. But baseball was, right down the cuff of being my second best love.
Okay. And do you remember the call you got when you were drafted? Did you know that the Expos were looking at you, or is that a surprise to you?
I didn't know anything about the draft.
Okay.
I'm talking about I didn't know anything about the draft. I heard I was going to get drafted, and I was like, yeah. But it was actually Hank Aaron who called me. How about that? So to go back to college, Larry Aaron was my outfielder coach, Hank Aaron's son.
Okay.
Robert Lucas, the brother Bill Lucas, who was the first black general manager in baseball with the Atlanta Braves, that's his brother.
Okay.
He was the head baseball coach. That's who recruited me out of high school. And another thing is he told me that you're going to start every single day on my baseball team. So that really lured me to go to FAMU, Florida A&M University. So fast forwarding to when I got drafted, Hank Aaron gave me the call and said that I got drafted. And I really didn't even know that I was getting drafted to play baseball. I thought it was the military. That's true. But so I didn't know where Montreal was. I was so honed in on football that, I wanted to go to a big Power 5 school to play football, the Clemson, the Auburns, and the Georgias, but that baseball came ringing, and, we didn't get running water and air conditioning until 1991. So those $25,000 out of high school would have really helped my family if I had took it out of high school. But I decided to go to Florida A&M, go there 2 years, and get drafted in the third round.
I'm guessing you had never been out of the country before that, and with Montreal, when was the first time you got up to actual Montreal? Did they bring you up before you started in the minors, or was it just you're going to go to the minors and you'll get up to Montreal when you can? Yeah,
I went to, my first year I went to Jamestown, New York, played in the short A ball. I think we played 84 games, 82 games, or something of that magnitude. And actually after the season was over, the AA team was in the playoffs. And they asked me, did I want to go to Jacksonville, which that's where the team was, or do I want to go to Atlanta? And I'm like, I'm tired. I want to go to Atlanta, not knowing that they was calling me up to go to play with the AA team in the playoffs. So I actually went home. They invited me to big league camp the next year. I had a pretty good year my first year. And the next year I went AA, AAA, then I got called up in August.
And do you remember how you got, it's on social media now, all these guys put up these videos of being called up. What was it like for you? Just called in the office, or how did you get the news?
And well, I was actually in AAA, and it was late at night. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I got the call. And I thought it was a joke. The guys be bull jiving around all the time. So I actually hung the phone up on the GM, and they called back, and I was like, really? And I had a 6:30 flight out of Indianapolis to Montreal. And I was excited. I was like, that's the ultimate dream. You're trying to work your way up to get to the big leagues. Of course, that was quick for me, playing 7 months in the minor leagues. I was happy. And I called my mom, called my dad, and got to the big leagues knowing I was going to play that day because I had actually hit a home run in spring training off Fernando Valenzuela. And so he was pitching with the Dodgers at the time. So they called me up, and I was just excited about that because I had some success against this guy. And I really didn't know how great he was as a pitcher. I was just trying to make it to the big leagues and get there and try to get me a starting job. So I was excited, and I was also a little bit comfortable in facing this guy again.
A lot of guys I ask, too, when you get that call up and you go to your first major league ballpark, were you like a deer in the headlights, or were you just, business as usual for you? Or what can you recollect about that first day being in a major league ballpark?
Well, I know the lights are better, and that uniform is a little bit heavier, and it felt like the big leagues. We're playing against the Dodgers, and all that history with the Dodgers, and all the history with Montreal, with Tim Raines being there, a guy I kind of knew, growing up, Hubie Brooks, Galarraga, Tim Wallach, some of those guys I had read up on too as well. And it was like the lights were on. And now it's showtime. It's time to play. And I just tried to get in and fit in, where I fit in at. And, play the game the way I knew how to play the game. And try to have some success. And at that time, you're coming up as a rookie, you're on the bench. I'm trying to become a starter. And Otis Nix and Dave Martinez in front of me as well. So just trying to learn and fit in and produce, because in baseball you have to produce.
Any of those guys really take you under their wing, or who'd you kind of click with when you came up to the Expos? Did you, you mentioned Tim Raines, or were those guys all pretty cool as a rookie coming up?
Yeah, all those guys. Galarraga, Tim Raines, Otis Hubie, Wallace Johnson, Tim Wallach, all the guys, especially the position players. The pitchers, pitchers kind of do their thing. But it was just like, you respect them, they respect you. And I was a rookie coming up, so I really wanted to respect those guys, because you think about Tim Raines, them guys had 10, 12 years in the league already by the time I got there. And there was a lot of love. And I always wanted to give that back when I was playing as well. So, I learned from those guys, and I paid it forward when I made it to the big leagues as well.
And during your first year in the league, were there times where you were in the box against a pitcher that you had been watching as a growing up that just seemed surreal? Or who do you remember any particular at bat against someone going, oh my gosh, pinch me, I'm up against X, Y, and Z pitcher? Was it all just for you?
At that time, I was so excited. It really wasn't. I was fascinated by just the Hall of Fame players, the Tony Gwynns, Dave Winfield, the guys that I kind of knew about, but I was a competitor. So the more I knew you, or you're a Hall of Famer, or you're an All-Star, I wanted to compete. I wanted to get in there and battle just to test myself and see where I was at. But there was no backing down, and I think that was a big part of my game, to be able to elevate to that level to where I was competing. I was going to have some success. But that's the only way you survive in that league, and it was a lot of fun. It was just fun for me the whole time, because I played hard every single day, and that's the key. What was it like living in Montreal? Was that
a young guy from Atlanta, and you're quite far away from Atlanta up there? Was it any sort of culture shock? But they speak French up there. It's a different.
I thought it was real cool, because it wasn't. I'm from Atlanta, and it wasn't a lot of black and white. It was like 50 different breeds of people up there. They all mixed up, and they from all over the world, and it was cool. It was like I felt comfortable. I felt better like when we played, because they really cheered for the team, and we had some real loyal fans, and I enjoyed every single day of it. Trying to make it to the league, trying to get established in the league, and then trying to just, make a name for myself. And so sometimes as a player, I wouldn't say sometimes, the majority of the time, you don't really see all that other stuff. I'm focused on the game. You're playing every day. You got a day off here and there where you're resting. And I kind of blocked all that stuff out, but I really enjoyed my time there all 6 years.
Still some dedicated fans up there that want baseball back there, and it'll be interesting to kind of see what goes on up there. But eventually, you get the news that you're going to Atlanta. That must have been something special to get traded to your hometown team. Again, do you remember what that moment was like when you heard the news you were headed to Atlanta?
Well, it was a tough year because of the strike season, and we had a real tight knit team in Montreal. We all kind of went through the minor leagues together. We come up together. We knew how to play. All those guys, we knew how to compete, and that was the beauty of us in Montreal, where we all was young. We was all grimy, and we trying to be successful. And we loved to play, and we played hard. And to get that call to being traded to Atlanta, I wasn't shocked, but I was sad in a way, because those are my brothers I come up with. But I was also excited because Atlanta was the only team that beat up on us pretty good, and that won the division a couple of times, right? And they had those 4 stud pitchers over there, Hall of Fame guys that could pitch, and I knew that was going to be our challenge when I was in Montreal. But to go there and being from Atlanta and having a chance to go to the World Series and win a World Series, that kind of put all the coming up with the group and the expos, which I still love those guys. It kind of, you have to spring it forward to, hey, let's go out and try to win a championship, because that's what it's about. And to be able to do that, man, I was excited, I was happy, and I thought I was the missing piece to that team. They needed a real good leadoff hitter, and I was able to provide that in 95 and 96. And just trying to just do my job. I wasn't trying to be we had so many great players on that team. I just tried to do my job and see if we can get there, and we did.
Did you get to know Hank Aaron pretty well while you were out with the Braves?
Well, early in my career, I knew Hank, and I met Hank numerous times, but never really just sat down and talked to Hank until actually 10 years ago.
Oh.
He came to my golf outing event. I met another friend that knew him real well, and we communicated, but it wasn't like I could pick the phone up and call him.
Okay.
So Mac Wilburn is a big corporate guy in Atlanta. He kind of brought Hank Aaron to my golf tournament about 10 years ago, and he spoke at my golf tournament. I was so excited that Hank Aaron showed up at my golf tournament that it was the best thing ever could have happened. And it made all the work that I had put into this golf tournament in Gala every year to be able to give back, for him to show up, to see me giving back the way he did. So he kind of taught me, how to give back and serve and commit to the community and make an impact. I was doing it on a smaller scale, but to have that kind of backing and get that approval from him was a whole nother level. And, before he passed away, I was able to, pick the phone up and call him, go visit him anytime. And I almost couldn't believe that. And his wife, Billy, and Andy Young, who's the ambassador, and was the mayor of Atlanta. Those two guys, man, they are unbelievable human beings who really showed me what community service was all about.
We had Hank in for Frank's statue unveiling. What a great guy.
Yeah, man.
Hank was. So 95, obviously 94 had the strike. Now you did have a home run in that All-Star game in 94 against Randy, and I pulled it up on YouTube, and he almost stopped running to first because that ball really does look like it's slicing foul. And Randy Johnson, I can't imagine he was an easy guy to stand in there against. But again, do you remember much about that whole festivity, being in an All-Star game, hitting a home run?
Oh yeah, you can't forget those moments. You don't play for those moments. I didn't play to try to make the All-Star team. I just played to win and try to win every game. But to make the All-Star team and be around those guys, the top guys in the game at that time, I was so excited. And to be able to face the unit and foul off, 6 or 7 pitches that I fouled off, and to hit a home run in the All-Star game, nothing really tops that, but winning the World Series. It's just a competition. I like to compete. And Randy actually was a teammate of ours in Montreal, and I remember going on the backfield, me and Delano Shields taking BP off this guy early in the morning, and he can't throw strikes. So that was like 2 times for me, and I wasn't doing that anymore because he was wild. But those are kind of the experience that I had before facing him. And then, of course, I think I probably was 0 for 25 against him until the last 2 or 3 years of his career and my career, where I hit him pretty good. That's when he was down about 91, 92. Mm-hmm. But when he was up 95, 96, I didn't have too much success against him.
So 95, you're on a great Braves team. What were your thoughts going into the World Series against this Cleveland team that, was hitting the ball like crazy as well? Obviously there's the excitement of playing in a World Series, but and you mentioned you were a competitor, so I'm sure that was probably some fuel to the fire as well. But what are your memories besides breaking a large generation of Clevelanders' hearts, Nate and myself being some of those? But playing in a World Series like that and winning one, what was that? What was that like?
Well, just being in the World Series, that's exciting, and that's what we played for on both sides. And but we knew we had our work cut out with that lineup and that pitching staff that Cleveland had at the time. It was just a matter of who make the first mistake, and that's the way we looked at every game. And you guys beat up on us, we beat up on y'all, and then we get to Game 6 and it's 1-0. It's a 1-0 game, and it was probably one of the, for me, most competitive 6 games that I ever played. because of that team and our team. We matched up and we stacked up pretty well on the pitching, on the defense, and on the hitting. And I really thought you guys probably could have out-hit us because of the old veterans that you had. We went out and got Mike Devereaux, Louis Poloni, some older guys, Dwight Smith, to come help us. And I think you guys might have had Dave Winfield, Eddie Murray, all those guys. So we were a little nervous. But that's what it's all about, competition and competing. And what a World Series it was, though.
So as an outfielder, too, I mean, with Albert and Manny and Tomey and all those guys, you had to be kind of on your toes because the ball was going places. So you win the World Series '95, hometown team, top of the world. And then, get '96 and you guys end up with the Yankees in the World Series again. And then '97, spring training's going. I mean, I bet you probably never had a thought in the world that you were going to be traded, let alone to Cleveland. I mean, how did that news hit you?
Well, that was a sad moment. You go to the World Series back to back, and all of a sudden you get traded. I was like, wow, it was like a letdown. But then all of a sudden you realize we going to Cleveland with Jim Tomey, with Manny Ramirez. You know what I'm saying? Matt Williams. We had an all-star team. You had a veteran all-star team. And I think we picked up Kevin Mitchell, Bill Roberts, and all those guys.
Was Mark Whitten '97 too?
I don't think so.
90.
Yeah, but we had an unbelievable team with Tony Fernandez, Julio Franco. We had guys off the bench that could play every day, and we had a whipstick. And our journey getting to the playoffs and going head-to-head with the Orioles was tough. And then, beating the Yankees was tough. And but we did it. And I thought we had the team to do that. And I think beating the Yankees and the Orioles, that we were going to win the World Series. It was no doubt in my mind that we were going to win.
And too, you go from playing the Yankees in the World Series then to playing the Yankees in the ALDS. You couldn't get away from them. But some of those guys, I mean, you got to play with Sandy, who's a Cleveland a legend, Tomey. And what were they like as teammates? Just was it being on the other side? Actually, what was it like being traded for Kenny Lofton? I mean, that's big shoes to fill in terms of Clevelanders and the way they. Was there a pressure or anything of that nature where you felt any different that I'm replacing a guy that was similar Gold Glove, All-Star, fan favorite? I mean, is there more pressure replacing a fan favorite, you think, or just filling in the shoes of anyone? I mean, what was that like?
Well, I think a player of that caliber, Kenny was loved here, and rightfully so. And you can't fill the shoes of a guy like that. I just had to try to play my game. And but it was so exciting when I first got here, though, to meet Jim Tomey. And I'll never forget, he gave me a ride back to the hotel with his big Hummer he had just bought. And we talked about baseball, but I also had David Justice here too. But I admired the other guys that were on the team, Baerga, Omar, and Manny, who I kind of knew from winter ball a couple of years when I played in the Dominican Republic. I didn't know him like that, but I knew of him, so we kind of gravitated to each other. So all the guys were real cool. And I just tried to get over here and fit in and, again, do my job as a leadoff hitter. And I struggled because when I left Atlanta, I was probably about 70%. I had tore my Achilles tendon, heel, and it gravitated up the back of my leg, behind my knee, then my hamstring. So I was really hurt the whole year. And I ended up still playing. I still played and didn't want to. Tried to fill those shoes, but didn't want to let anybody down. Right. And with such a great team, I just knew if I could stay healthy enough, and I always thought at my speed, the speed that I have, if I'm 80%, hell, I'm just as fast as everybody else on the team, on the other team too. Right. I may not steal that many bases, but I still can play good defense, and I'll manage my way to hit, and that's what I did. I managed to, probably hit 250, 260, but I know if we got to the postseason that, I'm going to show up. And that gave me a little bit more time to try to get a little bit more healthy.
And you mentioned hitting. I looked in '97. I think you only had 16 games out of 144 where you had multi-strikeouts. I mean, how did you, what was just natural talent? Or how did you train yourself? I mean, guys nowadays strike out 3-4 times a game. It's not uncommon, but the Stephen Kwans now who don't do that are the anomaly. What was that, what did you attribute your eye to? Just the ability not to strike out. Just what was that?
I think I was just aggressive. I was just an aggressive hitter, and I knew the scouting report. You throw him a curveball in the dirt, he'll swing at it, and I swung at a lot of balls. But that was just me being aggressive. I figured that with my speed, and when I first come up with the Expos, they always say, "Hey, use the turf, hit the ball on the ground," and I didn't like that. You think about that today. In today's game, you hit the ball on the ground, you may not make the team. They want the ball in the air. They want the doubles and the home run, and I laugh at that now. But coming out of high school and college, I was a power hitter, and then I go to pro ball. They want me to hit the ball on the ground, but it worked. I got 62 infield hits that year, infield hits. So it worked. So as my career went on, I learned how to drive the ball, but I still stayed aggressive. And I didn't mind striking out, but I was going to stay aggressive. I think that would allow me to put a lot of balls in play.
And then, we get to the playoffs, that dramatic series against the Yankees. San Diego's the home run off of Mariano. And then, again, a great Orioles team. You have the big home run. Do you remember anything about that at bat, or just getting up there and locking in, or what was that? What can you remember from that at bat?
Well, I can tell you this. I had an IV in me before the game because we got in that night and it was late. I ordered room service, and I say the hotel, they got me. They knew what they were doing because I had to call the trainer 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what time it was, but I was puking everywhere, and it was coming out of both ends, and I was sick. And I got to the ballpark probably about 8:30 that morning, and got some IV and some fluids in me, and I'm talking about I don't even really know how I played. And Mike came in there about, I'm laying on the training room table all day, and he comes in there and said, "You want to play? How you feeling?" And I said, "I want to play." And I go out to the first inning, and I'm puking in center field. And I just wanted to contribute. You can't get this far and not play. So I went out there sick as a dog. And Armando threw 2 fastballs by me, and I seen him pretty good, but then he hung me a slider, and that gave me just enough to get the bat on the ball. And I wasn't trying to hit a home run. I was just trying to make good solid contact to get on base. If I get on base, I have a good chance of stealing the base or scoring a run with all those great hitters behind me. So again, that's just the competitive juices flowing, and want to play and want to be in the game and being competitive, man, and that allowed me to go out there to play that day.
Must have felt like that ball was just stuck in the air for a while too, because you watch the highlight and you're burning around first, and then it goes over. And I remember talking to Paul Sereno about, he had a walk-off home run. He was telling me, he's like, he thought it was gone, but then all of a sudden it looked like it was coming back, and yours was deep center, so I imagine it just kind of stuck up there for a while. Then the probably the most remembered play, I think, in your time in Cleveland is that stealing home in the ALCS. Did you, some guys might have pulled up because it looked like it might have been a foul or not, but just your mentality of run everything through, is that what it was? Or you thought Omar missed? He clearly, I don't say clearly missed it, but the highlight looks like he missed it. So in your head, you probably didn't get much of a view of what happened, could you? Or
I couldn't tell, but that ain't my job.
Yeah.
If he squared around the button, now if he missed the ball, I'm barreling to home. Yeah. That's just instincts on being a base stealer. So that's up to the umpire to call it a foul ball or don't call it a foul ball. So I couldn't tell. I got asked that question 1,000 times. Did he tip it? How can I tell? I'm running. If I see the ball deviate and go a different direction, then that's a foul tip. I seen the ball go down, and I don't know, after that, I didn't see it once it passed the batter. I didn't see it dip down as a foul tip.
Right.
So I just kept running, and that's my job, to keep running. And we trying to win a game.
Yeah.
So if I sold it good, I sold it good. I don't know.
I imagine getting the sign that, hey, we're putting this squeeze play on in the bottom of the 12th in the playoff game. Did your heart kind of just, hey, let's go, it's go time? I just, as a non-professional athlete, I would have been, beating a little bit faster. But I guess when you're in the moment, you probably kind of shut that out.
Yeah, we had the right guy up there, and the right guy running, myself. So that's a good combination. That was a good call. And, that was our part of it. He's not a home run hitter, neither am I. But we can produce runs, bun guys over, getting guys in. And I thought it was a great call.
You ever talk to any of those Baltimore guys about that play, or anyone ever later on ever say
Well,
anything?
me and Lenny are great friends.
Okay.
So, after the game, I'm trying to tell him the same thing I'm telling you. I don't know.
Yeah.
He can tell me that, he foul tipped it, but I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So, it's like for me, I just had to try to do my job, and that's to score a run. And the play was on. So if he catches that ball, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I'm dead. So it's either be a foul ball or a pass ball, and I'm glad we got the pass ball.
So you're playing your third World Series in 3 years. Some guys never get a chance to even sniff a World Series, and here you are in your third one. Things obviously don't go the way we had hoped they would go, but reflecting back on that, what was and again your time in Cleveland. I mean, what was it like to play in an era in Cleveland where you couldn't get a seat in this ballpark? Yeah. And any reflection on your short but fruitful time in Cleveland?
Man, it was it's all about that clubhouse for me, because you got 25 guys trying to come together to win a world championship. Mm-hmm. Those guys had been, even though we won in 95, but those guys came back in 96 and played well. And then 97, we're back in the World Series. So the team chemistry, the nucleus of that team, and the way we played and the way we gelled together and fed off each other to get there, you never forget that. You never forget that. And you don't forget the losses either. That's going 3 years, winning 1 and losing 2. And you think about it, you dream about it, and you can't go back, and you just learn and you grow from them. And but that experience playing with the Atlanta Braves, the Cleveland Indians, I'm talking about, for me, those are the two teams that when we went on the road, we had just as many fans almost as the home team. And I thought I'd never see that again. I seen it in Atlanta, but then we go to Cleveland, we go to Minnesota, we go to Detroit. We got tons of fans. Yeah. And to be a part of this organization, man, for that 1 year was unbelievable. And the teammates and the city and the people, man, is second to none. And very knowledgeable fans, which I love, because they talk baseball, mm-hmm. and they love the game and they support the game. So I just never forget this place, man. It's one of my favorite places to ever play, and I'm just glad to be able to come back, that people remember me from being here in Cleveland just that 1 year. So that's very impactful for me, and I just appreciate it too.
And Cleveland was your only AL stop, right?
Yep.
Was that kind of nice then to get a chance to go play at Fenway or Old Yankee Stadium? I mean, that must have been, I always like asking that question, because again, some of the all-time greats have played at these places, and you got to go to Wrigley, you got to go to some of those at Dodger Stadium, but did you have a particular favorite place that wasn't, Atlanta or Cleveland that you like to play at?
All of those places, absolutely. I think when I went to Yankee Stadium, I never would have got a chance to play at Yankee Stadium if I never came to Cleveland. It was just the monuments in the outfield. It inspired me, and I was excited about it. But it lit a fire up under me to kick their butt. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to kick their butt, even though all that history is back there. So that was fun, and being able to go to Anaheim, to be able to go to Detroit and those historic stadiums and play. And it kind of like, I accomplished, my goal. I played at all the American League and National League stadiums. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't play with the Cleveland Indians. So that was very fun and exciting for me to be able to play in all 30 ballparks.
Well, I know you have some other obligations, so thank you for chatting. And
you've been listening to Cleveland's Team, a baseball history podcast with Guardians team historian Jeremy Fedor.